subscribe to the Donnie Houston podcast, man.
What's going on, man? It's your big brother K-Rino, and I'm standing with
Dr. Abdul Haleem Muhammad.
And we just blessed and honored to be a part of the Donnie Houston podcast. Y'all know what it is. We ain't got to say it no more. Yeah. What he said.
Yeah, man, it's going down this Donnie Houston podcast. I am Donnie Houston. Check it out, man. Hey, man, I'm honored. You know what I mean? Always, anytime I'm in the presence of these two guys, man, returning guest, Dr. Abdul Haleem Muhammad and K-Rino. Hey, man, how y'all doing, man? I'm honored to have y'all. It's always good to just be in the presence of y'all. I always walk away with something, even if it's just how to carry myself or it's just little nuances that I pick up on. I may not even tell y'all this, but just observing. So I'm honored to have y'all here, man.
Sound good, big brother. Well, we're happy to be here with you, the MC of Houston hip hop.
That's right.
We're happy to be here and honored. As I said, each time that I watch this podcast, I'm educated, I'm edified, and I'm uplifted. And so I'm honored to be here with K-Rino. To me, he is the wizard, and I've watched the evolution of him from the time there's some stuff that I'm sure that he had grandchildren, he wouldn't play for them.
Right.
But just the lyricist that he is. And then I've seen him do some freestyle, couple things freestyle. I mean, I'm like, wow. So I'm just honored to be here and to be a part of this genre called hip hop, because hip hop covers the whole world.
Yeah. And I'm honored to be here with both of y'all. So now, I mean, you know, your platform has become just the pulse of the city, you know, and beyond, because you branching out and talking to other people outside of the state of Texas, bro. So just same as Big Brother was saying as it relates to me, he's a part of my growth and development. And but we've been blessed and honored to see your growth and development, and just to see where you started and to where you at, and nowhere close to where you're gonna be. So we appreciate you, bro, for sure.
Nah, man. Like you said, we in this. It's a beef, you know, era we in. You know what I mean? Like, what do you think is gonna take for people to grasp this concept of like, man, all we gotta do is sit down and just talk? Like, why is that such a disconnect for us? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it to me, it goes back to the enemy who's in control of this whole thing in the first place. You know, we don't own any big media outlets. We don't own any platform that have the power to really just spread this stuff out. And the people who are fueling that fire, you know, and not the rappers are blindly falling for it. We blindly just going into it, but the people who possibly could diffuse it by not even allow it to get out to see the light of day, they benefiting from it. Because when these rappers die, get killed, man, you know, the labels make money, the owners of the masters make money, and they don't really care because they can just bring somebody else down the assembly line and here's the next guy. So I think we just got to be more sharp at educating our young artists coming up to say, man, look, you already got the talent, you can rap. That's don't even worry about that. You need to we need to educate you on how to move, how to think, what to say, when not to say this, when to know when somebody's trying to trick you and bait you into saying something, when they put that microphone, that camera in your face. And a lot of them learn. Like I saw where NBA Youngboy was talking about how he was saying about, man, a lot of my music have been destructive to the people. He waking up to understand that at what, 20 something, early 20s. So a lot of guys didn't get that chance, because a lot of these rappers was getting killed in their 20s. But for him to be that young and he catching on to that, that's a good sign from an artist who's so influential to this generation. And a lot of people didn't like when he came out and said that. Mm-hmm. They didn't like that.
They wanted him to be.
They still want you to be a fool, and be ignorant and be wild, going off on the gram and all that. But so we got to educate them out the gate to learn, hey man, look, you got your money, you're getting your money. You know, it's cool to express what you got on your mind, but be very mindful of what you say and the influence and the impact that it have on the people that's listening, because the people that's financing it and giving you the platform to say it, they don't care if you live or die. They don't care if you live or die. You know, it's plain and simple. And, you know, the fan base going to get over you after you gone. They going to talk about it for about 2 weeks. And then you giving your whole life away, and they going to be on to the next, you know, so.
You have what you call T-shirt pornography. Rest in peace. Yeah. Donnie Houston with wings and whatnot. You know, that's what happened. And then we wore balloon release, candlelight vigil, a couple tears, but I'm gonna move on to the next one. Yeah. You know, and it's unfortunate, but that actually is. I remember they called it the Sauce Twins. Yeah. Okay, so they came by the mosque. One of them, I can't remember which one it is, but it's not the main one. But he's the one that got arrested, locked up.
Sancho.
Right.
Sancho's.
Right, Sancho. Because the other one was in Miami, as I understand. I'm trying to get it right. But they came by, and I talked to him, and then once we talked on the phone, and I was just telling him as like an uncle, big brother, you know, I said, brother, with all that money, flashing all that money and doing all that, I said, bruh, I said, it's not a good look. I understand what you're trying to say, but it's really about the art. It's really about the music. It's not the image. It's the music. It's the art. It's what are you trying to tell them? I said, and then somebody out of envy and jealousy will see you with the stacks of money and all of that, and the women and the cars and all that, and the jewelry and all that, and they're going to try to take what's yours. See, it's all right to want what somebody else wants, but it gets dangerous when you want what somebody else has. Right. And so that's that dividing line. Right. And so, you know, I and then we looked, and then they put together a task force. Remember the last time I was on here, I'm talking about these task force. They put together a task force, FBI with local law enforcement, and scooped them up like that and calling them a gang. You see? So we have to understand that we can't be imitating these people who have gone before us, and their children and their grandchildren have cleaned up the money. Right. And now they are captains of industry. Right. They're the heads of foundations. They're politicians. They're all of that, which was displayed in The Godfather, where he was telling that, Michael, I didn't want you to get involved in this. I always thought you would be, you know, like a governor pulling the strings, like, you know, like that, Michael. You know, I didn't want to see you in that piece, right? And really, when you look at it, you look at the Annenberg Foundation, which is a very philanthropic educational foundation, but his grandfather set up all of the bookmaking numbers with the horse races. And the government came after him. They couldn't get him, so they went after the son. And after he went up the son, he said, okay, I'll cop to whatever you want to. But all of the money and all the fame that he had redound to the grandson, who is the head of this great foundation, but he really wants nothing to do with his grandfather. You look at the Kennedys, they were bootlegging. You look at the Seagram Company, the Brofman family, you know, part of they called Lake Erie, they had like what they called the Jewish Navy. Because bootlegging or alcohol production was not illegal in Canada during bootlegging time. So they would just bring it across to Detroit, and there was a gang there called the Purple Gang when the Nation of Islam started in Detroit in the 1930s. So you look at it, but they own all of the record companies and movie theaters, and they produce food and all of this, but the grandsons, Edgar Brofman and Sam Brofman and Edgar Brofman Jr., all of them now cleaned up their money. See, the Kennedys cleaned up their money. So you look at all of that along the way, this generation. But then in the 1970s, you get RICO, Racketeer Influence and Corruption Act, you know, organizations. So now it's not just that I catch you directly doing something. Anybody affiliated with you now, I can scoop you all up. And that's how they went after the mafia. And that's now how they're going after our brothers who are imitating these people. We call ourselves by these names. We want to be Young Gotti. We want to be, you know, this one and that one, you know.
All Italian, the Italian names.
You want to be Italians. You want to be all of these gangster names and whatnot. And in the end, look at what happened to them.
Yeah.
And then look at how they got
What's
their
going
money.
on.
Yeah, how they cleaned up their money, put people in political power, and now they're legitimate and this, that, and the other. But they don't allow us. Every time we get into a game, I don't care what it is, they'll change the rules.
Yeah.
Right? Lou Alcindor played for Powell Memorial, right? UCLA. Do you think it's a coincidence that they took the dunk out of college basketball when Lou Alcindor got into the game?
Right.
Do you think it's a coincidence when you look at Bill Russell, you look at Will Chamberlain, why you got the lane,
They widen the
3 second,
paint.
and all that paint and all that? I mean, with Allen Iverson with the killer crossover, you think now he's carrying.
Yeah.
See, every time we get in the game, they change it.
Right.
They change the rules. They change the rules. So what we have to understand is that, you know, we're gonna have to step back for a moment, because hip hop, as I said before on the last show, brother, I am duty bound to talk to you, through you, to the hip hop generation and to say to them, which is 50 years, so some of them is old heads, but to say that even to the OGs, man, we have a responsibility to guide this new leadership right. By at least giving them the wisdom. It ain't for me to tell them necessarily how to do a thing or what to do, but it's to lay it out there. Here's the history. Here's what happened. And now you can't repeat that same mistake because you have worldwide influence. They have worldwide influence. I think I said it before, and K-Rino knows. I seen him in Finland. I seen a video of him in Finland, man. And the people, I don't think the people speak no English, but they were rapping his songs. I said, man, this is deep. Then he was just in Canada.
In Canada, yeah.
You know, Toronto, K-Rino. He was in, but the point was, I was in Turkey, I was in China, I was in Africa, I was in Caribbean, Central South America. Hip hop. Hip hop is everywhere.
No doubt.
So if you got that kind of influence, to whom much is given, much is to be required, the scriptures say.
Right.
So they have a requirement. Oh man, Muhammad, I don't want to hear all that, man. You know, I'm just trying to make my paper. I'm trying to get. But see, what happens is what NBA YoungBoy found out. Man, wait, I'm doing this. And then, you know, when we had our meeting, Artists Respecting Community, that was basically started by Wicked Cricket, and
this is the meeting with the SPM and screwing out that one you talking about.
Yep. Yeah, actually, no, it was after that. These were some.
Where ARC came after that.
That's
the original meeting. Yeah,
this was the original 1999 meeting. Now I'm glad I got you here. You could tell everybody that was at that meeting, because I said his cousin 3-2. He said, "That's my cousin." I said, "Ooh," you know. But all the people that were there, and you could tell them what I was just trying to tell the brothers, you know, and that was at this meeting. But later we had what's called Artists Respecting Community. It came later, and that was Wicked Cricket in the latter part of his years, right before he passed away. It was almost like his swan song. He was giving us his swan song, what he desired for the community. He always been good to me. Everywhere I run into him, you know, back in the day, and he had his television show and all that kind of stuff. He was always good to me. So I always liked Cricket. He was genuine with me. But he was always somewhat bitter, because he felt like he never really got the credit that he deserved for launching a lot of people. So in his swan song to us, and coming and meeting with us and speaking with us about his desires for the hip hop, for the genre, for the community, and what we should be doing. Not that we shouldn't keep it, not that they shouldn't, not me, not that they shouldn't keep it street and real. But there's a responsibility that goes along with that kind of influence. So you take it from there, Brother K-Rino.
No. Just to build on that, Cricket was always on that. He was on that before it was even a structure that we had a title, a name to. When, you know, Cricket hosted showcases, telling everybody y'all need to stick together, get each other phone number and network, y'all work together. He been on that. So I think when ARC was formed, that just gave him a soapbox to stand on, a little higher soapbox to stand on. And you know, he would educate us, but he was scolding us at the same time. You know, Cricket was getting on us at the same time. But that's what he did. It wasn't just in front of our audience. He'd do that if he just pulled you to the side talking to you or me or whoever. And you know, that's why he was the OG. But again, to Dr. Abdul Haleem's point, even talking about with the RICO and all that, that's part of that educating that we have to do for our young people. Quit getting in these interviews talking about what you did, who you know, and what they did and all that, because now they are now using that. You are incriminating yourself by speaking this type of speaking on stuff that, again, that's the stuff that should be behind closed doors. So it's an education process. I saw where they had this group of athletes that were teaching, they were meeting with young athletes who just got drafted and teaching them money management. Teaching, hey man, this is how not to blow your money and be broke by the time you retire, 2 years after you retire or whatever. The same principles got to be applied in the music business, in the hip hop. You know, Houston is unique because we kind of pioneered that independent underground labels. You know, we got so many iconic underground rap labels in the city from cats that just started from the ground up, figuring this thing out. You know, and basically did what Big Brother was saying. They cleaned up some street money and said, man, I'm gonna start me up a record label. And it worked out for a lot of our brothers. You know, those principles, they ain't dead. You know, it's just the fact that back then, the goal and the desire was to clean that money up and get out, not to be flashy with it. A lot of the cats back then, they wouldn't out front like that.
Not glamorized.
Yeah, they wouldn't glamour. Yeah, it's like, look, I'm really trying to just do this to get somewhere, then y'all can have it. You know, so educating our young artists has to be at the forefront, because that's what's gonna nip it in the bud. Every aspect, from the content, the money management, dealing with media, dealing with beef and conflict resolution and all that got to be incorporated into some kind of curriculum that we can put out and we can express to our young people, so they won't get no more of us, plain and simple.
I'm listening to y'all talk. I wasn't even planning to even bring this up, but it's just spawned this thing, listening to y'all. Have you seen it's a speech where DMC is going off, and he's kind of like really kind of scolding like the music today, this generation. He's putting a lot of the blame on the music, yada yada yada. And I love DMC. I love Run DMC. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I think he has a point with that. But like, I watched the video, and when I soaked it in, I was like, man, you know what? That's part of it. Yeah. But niggas was selling a lot of crack to Public Enemy, and you know what I'm saying? And I, you know, when this was going on, so it's like, I can't say it's the music. It's like the mentality. You know what I mean? Like, how do we go in and change these mentalities? You know what I'm saying? Because it's more of a mentality thing than it's the music influencing me. And the music doesn't help.
It's corruption at the root. It's like we say, you talk about the labels. You know, like when you look at all of these so-called major labels and the people that run them, I saw Leo Cohen in the interview say, man, I got to feed my family. Basically justifying why they allow us to put our music that's corrupting our community. He don't care. They don't care. None of them care. So, yeah, DMC is right. He's speaking more on a personal responsibility level. Like, okay, yeah, you old enough to know not to say you gonna run up in somebody's house, slap their mama, shoot her in the head. You know, you old enough to understand that. But at the root of it, we don't hear that if the radio is not playing it. If the record label is not funneling in money to the radio stations to get them to play this 30 times a day in every city all around the nation, and then that influence is overtaking the minds of not just young people, but older people still, you see a lot of, that's the saddest thing in the world, see some 40-year-old still trying to act like he's 17 or she's 17. So at the end of the day, man, it's corruption. The corruption is at the root. But he's right, but you can't start at that point. You got to go dig deeper to get to why it's at that point.
And again, what we fail to do is to look at is to take a historical snapshot. We talk about, again, COINTELPRO, the counterintelligence program of J. Edgar Hoover. His fourth protocol was to prevent the long-range growth of these black nationalist groups, especially among the youth. Now we said, well, that when that was exposed, it all went away. When J. Edgar Hoover died, it all went away. Wrong. You need to know about the Alphabet Boys who infiltrated the Black Lives Matters movement. FBI paid $20,000 to informant. He was out there getting guns, trying to get people with guns and pumping them up to do violent acts. So we have to understand, it's the same song, second verse. The faces and names changed, Mr. Farrakhan saying, but the game is still the same.
That's right.
And when we look at the influence of hip hop, it's almost like the teacher of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Master Fard Muhammad, said, people are like fish. They move in schools, and there's always a lead fish. So if you can get that lead fish and take it the way it goes, you take the whole school that way. Right. So if I'm saying to you, as a man that has been in the ministry for 35 years, I've met presidents, vice presidents, senators, governors, kings, rulers, you name it, Congress people, all that kind of stuff, captains of industry in this city and et cetera and so forth. And I'm telling you that the sneaker wearing, hat to the back, grill, tattoos, hair fried, dyed, laid to the side, brother and sister is the one that is, the minister Farrakhan said, is the leader of this. Then I'm appealing to them to understand that they have to understand that they're under the influence. Right. When I saw the article about you being MC of Hip Hop of Houston, two things happened. One, I was happy because it was true.
Thank you.
I was true. But the other thing was I got concerned because when Jesus fasted 40 days and 40 nights in the desert, when he finished that in preparation for his mission, he was met by Satan. And Satan took him up on a high place. And he showed him all the kingdoms of the world and the power there. And he said, you can have all of this if you worship me. So the higher you go, understand Satan is up there waiting for you. Yeah. It's just said he started as a snake in the garden. By the time the book of Revelation, he's a fire-breathing dragon having war in heaven. And right now, when you think about the battle in the sky, is the airwaves. Right. It's a battle for the minds and hearts of the people. And so when you look at the criticisms of Rihanna during the Super Bowl, the criticism of the Black National Anthem played at the Super Bowl, we're talking about Black History Month, right? Man. And then we're being criticized about that. Certain people criticizing that. You look at this thing, this critical race theory, you look at the governor and others saying, well, we're going to be against diversity. We're not going to have diversity hiring anymore. We're not going to have diversity, equity, and inclusion. Wait a minute, what's going on? Right. What is happening? So there's a backlash. Whenever there are one scholar and one great preacher, Reverend Barber out of North Carolina, he co-wrote a book called the Third Reconstruction. And then there's a scholar, I think it's Texas A&M, named Dr. Pineal Joseph, I think is his name. He wrote a book about the Third Reconstruction. The Third Reconstruction, what happened to the first two? 12 years of Reconstruction after so-called emancipation, right? And then we were sold out by Rutherford B. Hayes and the Republicans and the Democrats. They cut a deal so that he could be the 19th president of the United States. They withdrew the federal troops. That was the end of Reconstruction. That was Reconstruction 1. Waited nearly 100 years, Civil Rights Movement, Voting Rights Act, Civil Rights Act, Fair Housing Act, and then there was the Reagan Revolution, and it pushed back again. Now we're in the so-called Third Reconstruction with the election of Barack Obama with so-called post-racial America. And guess what? That led to Donald Trump being elected. But a wise man and woman must have discernment. There's a difference between white nationalism and white power. White nationalism is those who want to use the levers of the state to keep a minority, because in 2042, 2050, the people of color are going to be the majority. Right. So how do I make sure that I control the political power and the economic power? I use the levers of the state. This is what the Ku Klux Klan did. They were never against the state. They used the state. They call themselves enforcing the laws. But white power was different. When they came back from the Vietnam War and they formed these militias, they came back to a country that was in recession. There was an oil shortage. They saw the civil rights bills pass. They lost their honor and their manhood and their masculinity by getting run out of Vietnam. They thought that the government sold them out. The politicians wouldn't let them win the war. They come back here, they see the feminist movement, they see the civil rights movement, they see the LGBTQ movement, they see all of that. And so now the white power movement is against the government. So that led to your Ruby Ridge shootout that happened in August of 1992 with Randy Weaver and his wife getting killed and his child getting killed, and eventually he being arrested at the Ruby Ridge, and the white people, the white power movement around that. Then you had Waco, April 19th, 1994.
Dave Koresh.
Right, David Koresh in that. So you have this confluence of all the neo-Nazis, the skinheads, all them coming together. Not that they all work together, but they kind of around these things, and Christian identity and all of that come together where they put a theological spin on it. It's a political, economic spin. So when they saw that shootout and that killed, the government do what they did there, then what happened then? 1 year later, April 19th, 1995, Oklahoma City bombing. Timothy McVeigh and Terry Nichols. They blew up that building. All of that is a part, it's all of a train. It started with the Vietnam War. Now, y'all too young to remember 1980 when I moved here, 81, the Vietnamese refugees, many of them were resettled down by the Gulf Coast, and many of them knew crabbing and knew shrimping and knew fishing. And they went out there, and the Klan and whatnot actually was harassing them. When I first got here, there was a fight between the Klan and the Vietnamese, the immigrants, the refugees and immigrants that came here. Mm-hmm. So this thing is ongoing. So you have to be able to discern the difference between these two movements. And so when you see, and if we just sit back for a minute, you're seeing the ones that have the levers of the state trying to make up with the ones that want to overthrow the state. And so this is why Mr. Trump is seen to them as the first really white president in a long time, because he looked out for them. And they love him for that. The man got tens of millions of votes. Right. It ain't like he
with no blowout.
With no blowout.
Right.
This is something that we need to pay close attention to. So for us to be beefing and fighting over Instagram, beefing and fighting over a song, beefing and fighting over the things that we're fighting about, is an old saying that only a fool fights in a burning house. Right. And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan pointed out in 2020, America is unraveling. Right. But we'll unravel if we don't learn how to sit down and have conversations and settle our differences, pool our resources, and do something for ourselves. Mm-hmm. Again, I go back to the two points of view. I want what they want. I want freedom. I want justice. I want equality. But I don't want what they have. He can have his woman. Right. He can have his that. I don't want that. Right. Because they feel like if we come up, they got to come down. It's not necessarily the case. If our point of view is that what's good for Black America is good for America. Yeah, if you give us freedom, justice, and equality, you got a template to give everybody else freedom, justice, and equality, even the poor, working white. They've been manipulated, man, and made to blame us for what's happening to them, when what they've done is they've taken their factories and took them offshore. A man used to be able to get a GED, work for used tools. He could buy him a house. He would have him a truck. He would have him a car. His wife could stay home. He could put his child through TSU, U of H, Prairie View, A&M. But then they took the factory. The factory went from the inner city to the suburbs, and then they took it overseas, took a job overseas. They gamed the tax system. They did all of that, and then they said, well, see, it's them people's fault. See, it's that affirmative action. It's all that. They taking your job from you. They doing this, that, and the other. And then the blame game, and what happens is we wind up fighting each other, and the truth of the matter is that it's a caste system set up. Isabel Wilkerson calls it a caste system. There's a caste system set up in here. There's the haves and the have-nots. And the haves, as we saw what happened with our brother Tyrell Nichols. Yeah. We said, well, them are black cops that killed them. No, them are guardians. You know, what's that movie, Guardians of the Galaxy? Right. They just guardians. It don't matter what color they are. They're guardians of the status quo. Yeah. So it don't matter what color they are. The synagogue of Satan is not Jews exclusively. There's Muslims, Christians, atheists. There's all kind of people. It's a mindset. It's not a religion. It's a mindset
Right.
of people who all working together to keep the status quo, and the rest of us are down here fighting each other, and we're fighting each other, and they're living deliciously while we're down here fighting each other until we realize that we're being had by all them, as Malcolm said,
Profiting off
had,
of it.
bamboozled, hoodwinked, and run amok. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
And let her straight.
No. That was
And let her straight.
That just went on the
Yeah. They
run just
profiting off our ignorance. Yeah, no doubt.
You know, and we're emotional. We have someone who there used to be a cigarette commercial called Lucky Strike. There used to be a cigarette called Lucky Strike. And he would say LSMFP. Lucky Strike means fine tobacco.
Wow.
Yeah, but that's
Right.
before your time.
Yeah.
They took cigarettes off of TV and radio.
Right. Oh, yeah.
But Minister Farrakhan teaches us that LSMFP means low self-esteem means friction and trouble.
Wow.
So when you have low self-esteem, and then you finally get some money, or you get some people that's applauding you and this, that, and the other, and you living for the applause, but you're not really looking after your money.
Right.
You don't understand show business or the business of the show.
That's right.
And so as long as people's clapping, as long as people's this, that, and then you look up and you say, well, man, I sold all these albums, why I ain't got no money?
Yeah.
I done all these shows, why I don't have no money? What do you mean I shot this video and I ain't make no, it got all these views and I ain't make no money? Well, see, right here in your contract, right here, you can read all that. I gave you $1 million advance. As I said before about Master P, he didn't take that money. He said, man, if he's gonna give me $1 million, what am I really worth?
Right.
So if we would understand, if this is my last day on earth, and I'm able to say on the Donnie Houston podcast to my young brothers and sisters, look, I'm not hating on you. I don't want you to not shine. I'm not putting shade on you so that I shine. My destiny is already set. But you are the leaders.
Yeah.
And you have to take responsibility. I know you don't want it, but you're going to have to take it. And when you have been deprived of stuff and you finally get it, you don't want nobody to take it from you. You don't want to lose it.
Yeah.
But it's almost like how they trap a monkey. In Africa, how they trap a monkey. They'll put something they'll put a peanut or something in almost like a bottle, a jar, right? That only you can fit your hand in it. And he grabs the peanut, right? Because he don't want the other monkey to get the peanut, but he can't pull his arm out of the jar because he's clenched his fist, right? And so that's what happens. They get our hands stuck in that jar, and then they got us. And then at that point, you know, in those countries that eat monkeys, they kill him and they eat him because he got caught in because he won't let it go. Right. Instead of just getting together with the other monkeys and turning the ball over and we can share the peanut together. That's the way I see it. I'm sorry.
No, real deal.
You were talking a little bit earlier. K-Rino was saying, I heard you say, you know, you don't eat meat. You know what I mean? Says you do a little fish. You know what I mean? I always admired this about just the nation and all this, and just the strict discipline. You know what I mean? Why? What's the deal with the eating once a day thing? Like, how does that break down?
Okay. Well, I mean, you know, everything is science and mathematics. Even religion really is science and mathematics. There's nothing spooky about it. The earth spins at 1,037 1/3 miles per hour, right? Giving you your day, 23 hours, 56 minutes, 46 seconds, right? So you have approximately a circumference of the earth, 24,896 miles, or approximately 25,000 miles. Now, in that day, your body has about 23 feet of intestines, right? So when you eat the one meal a day, you give your body time to process the food. Everything in the food is not necessarily going to be absorbed by your body. So what you do is you give your body time, your organs time to take and distribute the good in it and get rid of it with waste. But if you putting food on top of food, right? You wonder why we get the itis when we eat. You know, it's not just black people that get the itis. Everybody gets the itis. But when you eat, right? What happens is that when you eat, the blood rushes from different parts of your body to digest the food. So the blood is not in your brain, it's being pulled down, and that's why we get sleepy, from a lack of oxygen. So the point of it is in eating one meal a day or one meal every other day is you're giving your body time. And the scientists have proved it by having like three rats. One rat they let eat whatever he wants to eat all the time. Another rat they eat maybe once or twice. Another mouse or rat they had to eat once. The one that ate all of it died first. Then the next one died. But the one that ate less lived longer. They have a thing now, you know, how to eat to live is something. It's something when people steal and they won't say that they stole it. Yeah. When you call it intermittent fasting, what is that?
Yeah.
That's what they're telling you. Eat at certain times and then fast. Yeah. And so we eat one meal a day, one meal every other day, and then we fast 3 days out of the month. Meaning we'll just drink tea, coffee, water for 3 days, and then that day we'll break our fast. And then there's certain foods that we eat and we don't eat. And so it's very important to understand that, you know, there's a verse in the Holy Quran says, in the creation of the heavens and the earth, and in the alternation of the night and day are signs for men of understanding. There's a connection between your thinking and your eating. Mm-hmm. So you're sitting down, you're getting ready to eat. You get ready to eat, man. You got this nice meal laid out, Donnie. I mean, it's laid out. And then something comes on the news, man, about one of your favorite hip hop stars getting killed over something stupid. And you got you a nice steak, man. It's medium rare with onions on that joint. You got a baked potato with all that, man.
And you ready for it.
You ready to get busy. Yeah. Salad on the side, man. You got some wheat bread over here. You got your drink over here. But you eat and you watch the news. Now here, this thing goes in your head, but it's going to affect you. This is, man, damn. I got energy. Man,
I lost my appetite.
I lost my appetite.
Right.
How'd you do that? The food's there, it smelled good, it looked good. Right. You hungry, but you lost your appetite because of what you saw and what you heard. So the heavens and the earth work together. And so it is with night and day. With the alternation of night and day, you have to know what to do, when to do it, and when not to do it. Yeah. Have you ever gone to sleep with a problem on your mind and wake up with the solution? Your mind is just like a computer, right? Yeah. And you got all these programs running during the day. You know, you're trying to figure out all this during the day, but you lay down. Now, the only thing that's operating really now at this time is your breathing and your heart pumping. But your brain now has closed down Excel, it closed down Word, it closed down Instagram,
shut the programs down.
And now all of a sudden that problem that you had, and you woke up in the morning with the thing because now all your brain cells in reserve has been put on that. So it's very important how we eat, what we eat, when we eat, for the longevity, for not only the quantity of life, but the quality of life. Yeah. You and I don't want to be 70 years old, man, and can't get around. You can't do nothing
70.
for yourself. Somebody 50 years old.
50.
Some people, I've seen some people, they asked me, they said, Minister, how old are you? I said, well, I'm 66. They said, what?
Yeah.
How to eat to live.
Right.
And so I encourage everybody, you know, to learn how to eat to live, not to live to eat, learn how to shop to eat. I mean, think about it, Donnie, in our community. You have to go to Kirby, you have to go to Montrose, you got to go this place to go to a place called Whole Food. Right. If they're eating whole food, then what are we getting in our hood? Half food, quarter food, eighth food? What is that? You know, so good food is expensive. They said, man, I ain't going over there. It's real expensive. Well, what's more expensive? To go and get something that's good for your body up front, nutrition and diet-wise, or to go to the hospital and get one of them bills? So we suffer from all of the pathologies that you would think of. Heart disease, cancer, all of these things that we have, more diabetes. Yeah. You know, as I said before, and I don't want to get you knocked off the internet, but 50% of all the people that died of had diabetes. So why didn't we declare diabetes as a pandemic? Right. Since half the people that died of had diabetes. And what is diabetes? Most of it is diet, smoking, drinking, stress, no lack of exercise, and these things. And so now you got to get limbs cut off, toes, ankles, legs cut off, and your circulation and all that cardiovascular disease, all of these things. I don't want to bring down everybody's spirit, but I want everybody to think about
Yeah.
You know, what we put in our mouth. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said we're digging a grave with our teeth. So we want to just think about what we put in our mouths, how we eat, the things we put in our ears, we listen to, the things we watch, the things we inhale. Let's look at all of that, because this is a very sacred thing. You know, I'm looking at Donnie Houston. You could dress any way, I can dress any way, K-Rino can dress any way he wants to. But the truth of the matter is, that's not really Donnie, that's not really Haleem, and that's not really K-Rino. That's not really them. That's just a vehicle that carries the real you around. Right. So we have to take care of this, because this is the vehicle, man. You can't go nowhere on 4 flats.
Right. You said, okay, so this is my thing with the eating once a day. What else are you doing? Anything else, or is it just water? Like, you can't have no snacks? Is it like
No, you know, no Scooby snacks. No.
I mean, even like it was like pistachios or something like nothing.
No nuts.
Yeah.
No nuts. They're hard on your digestive system. They're hard on your digestive system. Whatever you can get from nuts, you can get from something else. So there's certain things, and again, you got to get How to Eat to Live. I'm looking forward to you coming visit the mosque. I will gift you How to Eat to Live book 1 and 2. K-Rino, he's been off meat for longer than I have, and he eats.
30.
He might eat a little fish every once in a while,
Yeah,
but
like
you know, he goes every time I'm talking to him. He's going playing ball. Now he ain't in his 20s no more.
Yeah.
But he's always playing ball. He's doing that, and he stays in good shape. He look good. He keep his weight down. He follows a certain dietary regimen, and then you look at how he flows, what he's saying, this, that, and the other. And I know he doesn't use drugs or anything like that. How does a man have that kind of creative mind, and he don't have to hit a blunt? He don't have to take no Percocets, no pills. He don't have to drink no Cristal. He don't have to do that. But yet he can flow like he do. I've seen his notebooks. Man, it's ridiculous. Yeah. You know, so, you know, but he's unique in his own way, and I'm not putting down anybody down, but I'm saying to everybody, you know, this is the only life that we know. I can sit here and perhaps be in a debate with someone of another religious persuasion or something, and we can debate about the hereafter, paradise, life after death, and then I can debate somebody else about, you know, when does life begin? Does it begin at conception? Does it begin when it's an embryo or fetus or a cloud, or when it breathes its first breath? You know, but the real question isn't not when does life begin or is there life after death? The question is there life after birth?
Right.
Is there life after birth? Once we're born, what do we do with this wonderful life that we have? I mean, you think about it, beloved. Here we are. I can't be you. There's only one Donnie Houston. There's only one K-Rino, and there's only one Abdul Haleem Muhammad. There's probably a bunch of Abdul Haleems on the earth, but there's only one that is me. I'm the best me I can be. He's the best he can be and you can be. Each one of us is an individual miracle created by God. You were born for a purpose. Minister Farrakhan said, blessed is the man who discovers their purpose and fulfills it. So when I said again, when you were the MC of Houston, I said, man, he was born to do, he's fulfilling his purpose, but then waiting right at the gate is Satan.
Right.
Now, how am I going to take him off his square and use his power, his influence to take the people off on the way? How can I take K-Rino, the wizard they call him? All of them, those who sign big contracts, those who are known, this, that, and the other, everybody that knows K-Rino respects him. Especially out of the Gulf Coast, the Third Coast, they respect him. And in some of them, he's been kind enough to say, you don't want me on your album, brother. It's going to cause you problems. It's going to cause you problems. You don't want that. But they'll be on his album. But they don't want him on their album. Not that they scared, but they know that the labels ain't going to go for it because of the kind of conscious rap that he's rapping. So we have to understand, when God puts us on this earth, we got this eternity before we're born, eternity after we die, and we get this short thing called a dash. And in our funeral program, also there's sunshine, there's sunrise and sunset. It's a little dash. Yeah. So Donnie, live your life and do it excellently. And K-Rino, you do the same, and I'm going to do the same. But all I want to do is an appeal through this medium to this great audience that you have, man. We can do better. We must do better because our survival depends on it.
Can you speak a little bit about, because there's these UFO sightings going on right now. Can you speak on that a little bit, like just as far as the nation and,
Absolutely. The teacher of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Master Father Muhammad, pointed out a dreadful plane in the sky. It was a half mile by a half mile. It's called the Mother Plane. And in it is 1,500 other bomber planes. And the authorities knew about it, and they asked Elijah Muhammad when they arrested him May 8th, 1942, and they had him in the custody, and they asked him about this wheel you're talking about. He said, when would it go into action? He said, when you attack us. Right? So Minister Farrakhan had a more than a vision-like experience on September 17th, 1985, where he was in Mexico, and he was taken up to the wheel, and in this vision-like experience, he heard the voice of his teacher, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, whom they said had been dead since 1975, and gave him a certain set of instructions. The instruction that he gave him was that President Reagan and the Joint Chiefs of Staff were planning a war. He said, I want you to go to Washington, D.C., hold a press conference, and tell them you got it from me, Elijah Muhammad, on the wheel. He sat back down. 2 days later, there was an earthquake in Mexico. And it kind of shook the minister up, and he remembered this experience that he had. And he told others about it. Some people said, man, Farrakhan, don't tell nobody that. They're going to think you crazy, man. But he did what his teacher told him to do. And in the end, they made mockery of him. All right. But now, ain't nobody mocking. Even before they shot these things down, right, which weren't the wheels.
Right.
These were balloons. They weren't wheels.
Right.
But what they shot, even before they shot that down, the National Intelligence Agency held a briefing for Congress because their pilots and military had been seeing these things, right, and experiencing these things, and they've been doing stuff that no other kind of craft that they knew of was doing. Mm-hmm. So they held an open door hearing, and they admitted it. And then they had a closed door hearing because these things threaten their national security, because if they can't shoot them down, they can't keep up with them, they can't outmaneuver them, then these things can be a danger to the United States. And any government that can't protect its people is not a government worth having. So they don't want to panic the people now. Chinese balloon comes over, they shoot it down. Now they're seeing these other objects, they're shooting it down, and the people is freaking out because they're like, okay, well, what are these things, And they had to deny that they were aliens, this, that, and the other. Let me say this, brother, the mother plane, the wheel, you find it all through Scripture. It's in symbolism in Scripture. You can start with the pillar of smoke in the day and pillar of fire by night that led the children of Israel through the wilderness through the wilderness, stopped Pharaoh in the Red Sea. Elijah was taken up in a fiery chariot to heaven. Elijah never died. He was taken in a fiery chariot in heaven. Ezekiel saw these wheels coming up from the earth. Jesus was taken up in a cloud, and they said that he'll return in likewise. And then you see a new Jerusalem, a city in heaven coming down from heaven to the earth. And then in Islam, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, has what is called the night journey, where he was taken from Mecca to Jerusalem. And then from Jerusalem is where he made his ascension to heaven to get the 5 prayers. And he came back down. So that's called the night journey, or the mirage. But the creature that took him from Mecca to Medina is said to have been a winged horse. So if people can believe in a pillar of fire, pillar of smoke, they can believe in Ezekiel's wheel. They can believe that Elijah was taken up into heaven in a fiery chariot. Jesus went up in the cloud. He's coming back in the clouds. And that there's a city in the sky called New Jerusalem coming down. And that Prophet Muhammad went from Mecca to Jerusalem and then was taken to heaven to get our prayers. Then I can believe in the mother plane. And guess what? The enemy has now bear witness that there is something up there that he can't explain and control. So he calls it not unidentified aerial phenomenon. He can't say it's a UFO. So understand that those are piloted by humans. There ain't no slick, shiny-headed green men from Venus. These are piloted by humans.
Come on.
And the thing that we have to understand, Donnie, is that, out of the 7 wonders of the world, the pyramids are the only ones standing. They still can't figure out how we built them. So there's things that everywhere that in the age of discovery, that Vasco da Gama and Columbus and all of these, Pizarro and all of these explorers and conquistadors and conquerors went around, everywhere they went, they ran into us. Right. It's almost like graffiti. You know what I'm saying? Donnie was here, but now he's gone, but he left his name to carry on. They always found our civilization, that we had been there. And that's the thing about being original. Being the original, man, so they accuse the Nation of Islam of teaching black supremacy, but that's not the case. What we teach is black originality. You're only supreme by your righteousness. So to the extent that we keep our duty to God and to others, we are supreme. But the truth of the matter is, what we teach is black originality, that all people come from us, and that we're the mothers and fathers of civilization. And you should respect your mothers and fathers. But, you look at our condition, they make us the buffoons and the clowns of the world. They laugh at us, they mock us, they that kind of thing. And then sometimes we buy into it, and the more ratchet and outrageous we get, the more we're clapping and applauding and laughing. But the time will come where we have to answer for what we have been given. So your responsible way that you handle this podcast, I mean, y'all cuss and all that kind of stuff, because you got to keep it real. I mean, the audience you talking to, they understand that. The people you talk to, man, they went through life, man. I mean, Lil Kiki and all them that was on this spot, and Zero and all these other cats that was born there, and they telling their stories, man. I'm blowing. Miss Charlotte, that's my favorite. They're blowing my mind, but they're keeping it real. But at the same time, man, K-Rino, very responsible. In his music nowadays, I mean, not that he wasn't before, he didn't have the knowledge, the consummate knowledge to know what he do. The stuff he dropping now, how many you put out 7 albums at one time?
Yeah, one day.
Who does that?
Yeah.
I mean, who does that? I mean, if anybody else had done that, man, they'd be on Billboard 100. They'd be on the Billboard 10.
Yeah, we make our own history around.
Yeah,
here.
so the teachings of that, Malcolm X, the Farrakhan and the nation killed Malcolm. 2 men were exonerated.
You walk right into where I was where I wanted to go with that whole thing. Why does the nation, get the blame for allegedly being responsible for it?
Because the ultimately it was to kill 2 birds with one stone. A repentant Malcolm X returning to the Nation of Islam, and you can look it up on YouTube. There's a recording of him apologizing to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, saying how he made a mistake and how he wanted to work his way back. A repentant Malcolm X would have did more for the Nation of Islam than a martyred Malcolm X. So 2 men, Norman 3X Butler and Thomas 15X Johnson, Muhammad Aziz and Islam, his last name Islam. Anyway, I'll think of it. Both of them were convicted with Thomas Hagen in the murder of Malcolm X, but they didn't do it. And now they've been exonerated, and the state of New York paying them $36 million for them being there. And one of them is dead now, but they were exonerated. So if they didn't kill him, who did? And there's no statute of limitation on murder. And if Minister Farrakhan had anything to do with murder, as high profile as the minister is now, they would have arrested him like that. But no, they never mentioned Louis X. He was Louis X then. They never mentioned Louis Farrakhan at that time. Nothing. He defended the Honorable Elijah Muhammad just like a whole bunch of other people defended Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But it is in the rebuilding of the Nation of Islam, which they thought went away at the departure of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the change of the Nation of Islam. Minister Farrakhan did what seemed to be impossible. He rebuilt a movement that the government, people in Mecca and other places had destroyed. They were happy the nation was gone. Minister Farrakhan rebuilt the Nation of Islam, and so his prominence now has caused them to say, okay, now he's the one. Think about a man that called for 1 million men and nearly 2 million men showed up in Washington, D.C. Who is he? The protocol of the COINTELPRO says you must prevent the rise of a messiah who can unify and electrify the black nationalist movement. They know what they saw in that mall. Right. They said that we must prevent a coalition of black nationalist groups, because a coalition of black nationalist groups would be a real Mau Mau in America, a real revolution, right? And as I told you before, the third protocol was to discredit, to disrupt black leadership in the eyes of the community. So they would make Dr. King look like a sellout. They would make Stokely Carmichael seem like a radical. And they would try to make sure that they played us off one against another so that those in the streets would not respect the ones from the suites, and the ones from the suites wouldn't respect the ones from the streets. And they would stop white liberals who had money that was sympathetic to us, from giving us money. And then again, as I said before, and why I'm appealing to the youth, is that they wanted to prevent the long-term growth of these organizations, particularly among the youth. So they have to understand that where we are right now is social engineering. They socially engineered them where they are right now and put guns in the community. Hell, we don't have a toothpick factory. How you have these guns? We don't own a ship, a plane, a train. Hell, we don't even own a canoe or a rowboat. Question: how is fentanyl getting in our community? How did crack cocaine get in the community? How did heroin get in the community? How does weed get in the community? We didn't bring it. We're not the ones bringing it in. So how did it get here? So you take away the factory job. I don't have no blue collar path to the middle class. You put guns and drugs in the community, and then you sit back and then you declare a war on drugs. What did Nixon do? His man that was with him in the White House,
John Ehrlichman.
It was Ehrlichman. I think that was his name. It was Ehrlichman. I think that was who it was.
Ehrlichman blew the whistle.
Yeah, he blew the whistle on Nixon. Nixon said the way to get at the anti-war whites was to use marijuana. To get after the militant blacks was to use heroin. So he declared this war on drugs, right? He declared this war on drugs. But I'm not going to put it all on Nixon, because Johnson felt betrayed. He had just signed, I think it was the Voting Rights Act or the Civil Rights Act, 65. And then the Watch riot happened right after that. So he felt betrayed. So he put together a commission to study law enforcement and what happened. He put together the Kerner Commission, right? They were trying to find out what the heck happened. Right? So Nixon, what he did was, there was a war on poverty, there was a war on poverty, and there was a war on crime. What Nixon did was drop the war on poverty, and then the Great Society of Lyndon Johnson, he just picked up the war on crime. So he did the war on drugs, and Reagan picked it up, and this, that, and the other. And so we see the growth of the prison industrial complex, man. And then a culture that says, man, you ain't nothing if you ain't been to jail. If you've been to jail, that's how you get to. So somebody that been to jail got more respect than me that got a PhD. How is that? Because we've been socially engineered. And I love them brothers and sisters that's in prison. I love them because they're the real leaders, but they don't even know it, that they've been manipulated, man. It's like them Steven Seagal movies. Where the cat be running at him, go, oh, you bummer cloud, I'm going to kill you, man. And he just stepped to the side and boom. But that's how it is. We got a powerful generation, man. This Joshua generation, this warrior generation, man. And all they doing is they stepping to the side. And as the rap song, the compilation rap song, headed for self-destruction. So it is. But we have a chance. It's a slim chance. But right now, across this planet, not being myopic and tunnel vision on just us and what's going on in the hood and in America, we have to have a global look, because hip hop touches the globe. That war in Ukraine is not going to stay there. And the way America and China is beefing about these balloons and all this kind of stuff, look, brother, You talk about, right now they're talking about the debt limit. The debt limit. If we don't increase the debt limit, America will go on default. Well, let me tell you something, brother. They keep messing with China. China is the one that owns so much of our debt. If they called our debt in, they could bankrupt America. Yeah. So there's a dynamic going on. So America puts all her money in the military because you know what? I ain't gonna pay you. So what you gonna do? I got this gangster military. You know, homeboys doing a drive-by. They can do a flyby. Yeah. You know, they got some cat in Nevada sitting in a television monitor with a drone, and he can drop a 500-pound bomb on you, and he ain't left Nevada, man. Wow. It's like a video game for him, bro. Wow. This cat, man, he got a satellite, brother Donnie. You know, I don't know how they can, all these 100,000 black women missing, and how we can't find them, but he got satellites up there that can tell you a golf ball, what kind of golf ball you got on the ground. So there's a lot going on. I go back to the health piece. Our black women have a higher mortality rate and maternal mortality rate, and our children are dying in birth. Something going on, bro. Yeah. And we're going to have to get sane, sober, and serious. That don't mean we can't party, can't have a good time. God knows, man. K-Rino know I love to have a good time. But there's a time for everything, a time, place for everything. Right. And the time, place now is for us to unify ourselves. And what we learned in the Artist Respect community, and I hope before we close, you tell them the story about the meeting in '99 when I came back from Chicago and how we formed the ARC so that we can leave it at that, because we have to resurrect that again. Because
I was just getting ready to say, how can we get something like that going? Like,
it's going.
Start with '99 and then tell them the story.
Yeah. I mean, you know, Brother Abdul Haleem, Robert Muhammad at that time, you know, he was ahead of his time because this is pre-social media, any of that. And that's like really my only regret from that meeting is that it wasn't visually documented the way it would have been had we done it today. But at that time, to my recollection, Dr. Abdul Haleem was really wanting to meet with the rappers, appealing to them about using the money that they had generated to buy up the community, to buy land, or, you know, buy property and things of that nature, not just blow it. You know, long as rap been around, we've been tricking off money, you know, so that's always been a conversation. But the people that were at the meeting at that time already had bread. A lot of them already had bread. And some of them that didn't have a lot of money, they would in the future. Because, you know, Screw was there, of course. SPM was there, and he was either fresh off signing a $29 million deal, or it was about to happen. I don't remember what year it actually happened, but he was already doing good independently. You know, 3-2 was there. 3-2 was already a legend at that time. A young Zero, a young Trey was there. Of course, South Park Coalition, Gangsta Nip, myself, Murder One was there. You remember Money Black? Mm-hmm. Money Black was there. And the minister was basically just saying, look, I don't want none of y'all money. I'm not trying to come to y'all for y'all to break me off anything. I'm just appealing to y'all to take some of this money and reinvest it back into the community, because we don't know how long our career is gonna last. You know, rap is a game where even the biggest of rap artists get like a window. You know, you get 3 years here, 4 years there, 2-3 albums here, and then they move on to somebody else. And the smart ones are the ones who learn how to invest in other things, to where when I ain't the hottest thing out no more, okay, well, I got all this real estate now. I got these rent houses. I open this business or whatever it is. And that was the message at that time. Now, who listened and who didn't, I don't know. You know, I don't know how it took, but I always credit Screw for really making the meeting what it was, because a lot of the people that attended, they came on the strength of Screw, who came on the strength of me, you know, and they came. I even talked to people like Zero before in the past. And he was like, I didn't know why I was there. I just came because Screw said come, you know. But I would have liked to have seen, you know, if Screw would have lived, how he would have evolved into that mindset. You know, we saw people who were not at the meeting eventually grow into that. Not that we taking no credit for, like, you know, like what Slim Thug have done and all that. So that knowledge came to some people, you know. But that message that was laid out then is still applicable now. You know, even more so now, because now with social media, so many avenues where artists can get into different things and invest in different things. So a lot of the artists that were at that meeting, you know, when I say a lot, but a few of them, you know, that suffered untimely demises or incarcerations and things of that nature. And I just really was happy and blessed that years later, 15 years later, in 2014, Mr. Farrakhan met with a lot of the prominent commercial and well-known rappers, and he basically said, look, man, I'm meeting with y'all to stop the beef, to educate us more on how we should be moving. And he had a lot of his ministers, his student ministers, in attendance in order to watch and say, okay, we're gonna take this back to your city and duplicate it. And Big Brother hit the ground running with it, you know, and he reached out to me, and we formed Artists Respect the Community. Sister Fire, Media Mogul, she came up with the name, and Wicked Cricket and Cliche and Gangsta Nip, and many of us, we just moved on that to the best of our ability, and we still doing. We took a hiatus, you know, we fell off here and there, but the premise is still alive, and we still go out and we do things that are beneficial to the community, because we trying to just combine the art form with the knowledge of the music business, which was at first kind of what we were on the most, but then to transform it over to, again, the entrepreneurship side and the community aspect with all of the beefing and all that going on. That's the fight. That's the goal, and it's still a goal. Because really, man, I think now the need for it now is more than ever. You know, even back when we first started, it's so wild now that we gotta reinstate it and get it popping again, because, man, people are losing it every day. So it was a blessing, and it also gave a lot of people who did not rap a place to be, a purpose. We got people like, you know, George, school teacher, and different people who found their place in this whole organization. It's like, well, man, how can I contribute? You just come in and do whatever it is you do, whatever it is God blessed you to be. You come in and be it with us. So it's not something that's known the way it needs to be, in the way that we plan on it being. But, you know, you hear ARC, and you'll continue to hear ARC and know what it means, artists respecting the community. And that's the goal, bro. But it started, even when we didn't know it started, like 24 years ago now. It's crazy.
Man, before we get up out of here, and we talked privately about it, man, but your trip to Canada, man.
Yeah.
Just, you know, run down some, because the pictures, man, they were showing so much love, bro.
Yeah.
To see that, it was just great to see, man.
It was a blessing. You know, God had blessed me. You know, I never been on a major label. I never have been on the big platforms and all that, but I've been blessed to carve out a career for myself, just doing it on my own, the way I do it. You know, any shot that get called in my career, I'm the one calling it, you know. So, and it's blessed me to take me all over the world. You know, I've been to places that I know that if I didn't rap, I'd be one of them people that, you know, I've never left the United States before if I didn't rap. So this gift of music that God gave me is taking me all over the place I never would think that I would go. So to go to Canada was just another something you scratch off the list, because it wasn't on my radar. It wasn't a place that I was like, oh man, I gotta get to Canada. It was like, nah, just a phone call or email comes in, and next thing you know, the conversation lines up, you know, and the money lines up, and next thing you know, I'm in 15 below freezing, you know, doing some rap stuff. So it's a blessing, bro. I wouldn't trade it, and then it also persuades me to tell other people that's trying to come up, not to put any restrictions on yourself, because you never know. You can't say, well, man, I can't do it. Man, bro, you don't know. I don't know where I'm gonna end up at. So I just thank God every day, and I always I take him with me, even though he's not physically with me, because I'm always focused, on my understanding of the teachings as far as what I know, and I know how to move and carry myself, because a lot of times when I travel, I'll be by myself. I don't go with a group of people. I'm underground, so even the people who book me, they don't have huge budgets, so I can't say, well, I need to bring my team out there. I can't do so. A lot of times when I travel, man, I'm by myself, just me and Allah. So I move in ways that look out for me, but it's a blessing, because it also gives us an opportunity to see what kind of love we got in places that we don't think we have love. We in the hood, people walk up to you in the hood, and I know you get it now, like, oh, Donnie Houston, take a picture, man. But to be in another country, and in some cases another freaking continent, and the reaction is actually greater over there, because this might be the only time they see you. Then a dude in Third Ward, I'd see that Negro to Mars. They're gonna run into you anywhere. But across the world, they gonna come take advantage of it, because they never thought they would meet you in the first place, and then they come to meet you because they don't know if they'll ever see you again. So it was a blessing, bro. I wouldn't trade it for nothing.
That's what's up, man. So I know you got an album or something coming up, man.
Man, y'all ain't gonna believe this. I did a whole album in one night when I was in Toronto. We recorded a whole album in one night, like 10 songs. And so that's gonna be dropping. That's gonna be dropping soon.
Who does that? Who does that?
Yeah, we recorded a whole album in a 7-hour studio block. Yeah, so that's gonna be dropping probably this summer.
You ain't even spending an hour per record.
Right. We did 10 songs. That's a small number normally. I'm gonna give you 15, 16 on average, but we did 10 in a 7-hour studio block. Yeah, and then the guy that brought me out there, he did the production, so that was part of the reason why I was going out there. And he was like, "Man, you think you can do it?" I was like, "Yeah, I can do it." So we went out there and made that happen, man, and it turned out real good, bro. I'm thankful. I don't have no complaints about nothing.
So when we gonna get the 10 record, the 10 track joint?
Probably this summer. Yeah, this summer. I did a Zoom call with the guy last night, so we just bouncing around ideas and names. We might name it 7-hour block. That might be the name of it, because that's the studio time block we booked. But yeah, it probably this summertime, man. Straight up.
I'm looking forward to that, man. Like you say, that's 7 hours, 10 songs in 7 hours, bro. I don't know if I've ever heard anybody do that before.
Man,
that's why his name is the Wizard.
Oh man, no, it's a blessing and an honor, man. I mean, 50 years of hip hop is where we at right now. So just to be a part of that, whatever. Just like Willie D said, he said, I ain't saying I got to be in the main room. He said, but if I'm just in a little bitty corner in a closet in the mansion, that's cool. You just want to contribute to this thing as much as you can, because it's giving me everything. With God's permission, it's giving me everything. So it's levels. You got the mainstream commercial. That's their purpose. That's what they do. You got the mid-range. You got the independent guys to get it from the mud guy. That's our. Hey man, I step in my road and try to just be the best at it and grow in that. Grow in that.
Man, I'm listening to you talk. I wasn't even planning to say this, but I've been sitting on this thing of it's the 50th anniversary of hip hop, right? But Jazzy Red was telling me that he made the first Houston rap record. That was 83. So does that technically make Houston hip hop 40 this year?
Yeah, I mean, Jazzy Red said, I'm not gonna argue with him on it. That's my OG. But I started rapping in '83. So I'm 40 years in. You know, when I did the 50-40 concert, I was actually rounding it off. It was 39th year, but this represents the 40th year, you know, in hip hop. My first solo album dropped in 93. So that's 30 years from the time I dropped my first solo album. So, if Jazzy said, I remember, you remember McGregor Park? Mm-hmm. McGregor Park.
That's like 84, 85.
My freaking me. I don't remember what year. Yeah,
but it's like 85, 84.
But if Jazzy say he was the first, then you know I don't have no reason to dispute it. And plus, I'm sure we can verify and document that.
He sent me the record.
Yeah. So if he's a person who. I saw that you interview. I was glad that you got a chance to talk to Jazzy too, because I don't think he gets. See, the further back you go in this thing, a lot of people get lost because of people getting caught up in what's happening currently. With rightfully so, they deserve that. But we can't never forget about the Jazzy Reds, the Wicked Crickets, the Lesser Sir Paces, and guys like Romeo Poet and all them guys, man. Who was around before us, who people call the OGs. So. Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. 40 years in Houston right there. But we this 50-year thing, I wish that they would have, I don't know what they got planned for the rest of the year, but I wish they would have maybe planned 5 years in advance or something. They could have did like a little Woodstock thing in every major city, or maybe just in one city do a 3 or 4 day festival where they just bring everybody out and just get as much in as they can, because somebody gonna always feel slighted that they didn't get included, people that deserve to be mentioned, on the big stage.
Yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm. Well, man, y'all. Can we get a word just for, because I had Quanell do this at the top of last year, so I have you here at the top of this year. Just a word, man, for just our people, man, for this year moving forward. You know what I mean? Something to take with us, just moving forward. What we need to be on mentally, and just where we need to be at.
What I would say to them is, we're not a forsaken people. That God does love us.
Yeah.
But we have to clean up, or we're out of luck with God. And it requires us not pointing fingers at what the white man did to us.
Right.
Because we can rehearse that history all day long. The question is, what are we willing to do for ourselves today?
Right.
We get $1.6 trillion out the economy. We have men and women that are involved in every facet, every science, every business you can think of. If we would pool our talent, our time, and our treasure, we could come up out of the condition that we're in. But it requires unity. Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that 95% of all our problems will be solved if we would just unite. Mm-hmm. So today is not a day of blaming others. Today is a day of getting up and do for self or suffer the consequences. Right. And lastly, I invite everyone out to Mosque 45, 44, 43 Old Spanish Trail, Sunday at 10 a.m. Still looking for you. And personally autographed that Mr. the Black Man for you. But
one day I'm going to show up like, bow.
And this is going to be, it's like, pow. It's like the parting of the Red Sea. But we invite you out. And I don't know when this will air, but I hope that if it airs before our Savior's Day convention, which is on February the 26th, Minister Farrakhan was speaking live 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, and they can go and watch it at NOI.org, and watch it. If this airs afterwards, then they can.
No, we're gonna run it before that.
They can watch it because this subject is the war of Armageddon has begun, and if that's the war to end all wars, what posture should we be taking right now? So look at the weather, look at what's going on, look at what happened in California, look what happened on the West Coast, look at the snowstorm that hit Buffalo, look at the tornado that hit Pasadena. Look at the weather, and let's get our heads up out of women's crotches and and the weed bag and the pills and the drink and the partying, and for a moment, just get sane, sober, and serious and look and say, what the heck is going on, right? Everybody fighting in Washington, D.C., look at what's going on in Austin. And then look what's going to happen in 2023 in this mayor's election. I don't want my brothers and sisters in the streets to get blamed for the crime. Crime starts at the top.
Come on.
So when you see lawlessness at the top, why are you going after the street criminal and you won't condemn the one that defiled the presidency of the United States and the crooks and creeps that's in Congress? And unethical thing that's going on in the Supreme Court, but yet you want to condemn my little brother and sister. I'm here to defend them on behalf of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I love them,
That's right.
but I don't want them to be hurt or harmed by this enemy who has no good for us or poor whites or the Hispanics or anybody else. So let us get up and do something for ourselves. Let us unite and find a way to make our neighborhoods safe and decent places to live.
No doubt.
Hey, man, I received that. Man. I appreciate y'all coming through, man. It's always an honor, man.
Thank you, brother.
Appreciate you.
Thank you for having us, brother. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. Abdul Haleem Muhammad, Wizard K-Rino. I'm Donnie Houston. It's Donnie Houston Podcast. We're about here.
There it is.
Donnie Houston.
Subscribe to the Donnie Houston Podcast, man.